Just waiting for everyone to join. Okay, looks like we're up. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the annual general meeting of Vulcan Energy Resources Limited. My name is Francis Fadine, and I'm the executive chair and founder of Vulcan. Thanks so much for your time. Before I begin, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which this meeting is being held, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and pay our respects to elders past and present. Consistent with our commitment to offer more opportunities for two-way engagements, we are pleased to provide shareholders with the opportunity to attend and participate in a virtual meeting. Our hybrid AGM follows the temporary modifications to the Corporations Act 2001. With that in mind, I would like to welcome those joining via Zoom from across the world, as well as those who are attending in person in Perth. I've been informed that there is a quorum present, and therefore the meeting is properly constituted, and I declare the meeting open at 3:01 p.m. Please ensure that you have signed the attendance register. I'd now like to introduce you to the other directors of the company who are present at this meeting. So I'll start off with Gavin.
Hello, everyone.
So Gavin's non-executive deputy chair joining us from London. Rani, I'll go to you next. I think Rani is frozen, but Rani is online. She's non-executive director joining us from Sydney. And Josephine, I'll go to you next.
Hello, everybody. I'm Josephine Bush. I'm a non-executive director and chair of the Audit, Risk and ESG Committee.
Thanks, Josephine. And Annie, Annie Liu next.
Hello, everyone. Annie Liu joining from the US. I am the non-executive director of Vulcan.
And next we'll go to Heidi Grön.
Hi, everyone. This is Heidi Grön, calling from Germany. I'm non-executive director.
And next we'll go to Günther Hilken.
Hi, everyone. This is Günther Hilken, non-executive director, calling in from Germany.
And may I also introduce, not on the board, Dr. Horst Kroter, who is co-founder with me and general representative from Germany. Horst, could you say hello, please? I think you might be on mute. Might be having some technical issues there.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. I'm happy to join, and I'm a general representative here in Germany and manage politics and investor relations here in Germany.
Thanks very much, Horst. And next we'll go to Julia Poliszkanova, Special Board Advisor. Julia?
Yes. Hi. Hello, everyone. Julia calling from Belgium, Special Advisor to the board.
And we also have Daniel Tidd here with us today, Company Secretary and Legal Counsel in Perth. For the benefit of all attending the meeting, I ask that you please turn off your mobile phone or switch it to silent mode. In relation to the proceedings for today's meeting, our Managing Director and CEO, Mr. Chris Marino, will speak shortly and will provide an update on Vulcan's activities. I will then proceed with the formal items of business as set out in the notice of meeting. There will be an opportunity to ask questions in response to each resolution and at the end. In the meantime, I would like to briefly highlight the work of your board over the 12 months since our last annual general meeting. In reflection of the last 12 months, Chris Marino was appointed as Managing Director and CEO and has been instrumental in transforming Vulcan from a development-focused team into an integrated development, execution and production company, and has built up a highly capable project directorate as we focus on delivering Vulcan's integrated renewable energy and zero carbon lithium project. Myself, as co-founder with Horst and MD CEO, I've transitioned to the chair role in reflection of where we are as a growing business. And Gavin Rizos then transitioned from chair to deputy chair and is supporting me with obviously the chair role, which is new to me. So I'd like to thank Gavin very much for his time as chair of Vulcan, during which has been really a transformative time for the company. And Gavin will continue to provide support in the deputy chair role. The Project Oversight Committee, or POC, has provided invaluable guidance and insight into Vulcan's projects during this time. So I'd like to acknowledge the POC and Gunther and Heidi who run that. And the People and Performance Committee, or PPC, continue to assist the Vulcan boards to provide a competitive remuneration strategy to retain and attract key staff, such as the appointment of Felicity Gooding to the position of Group CFO, and Felicity's here with us today as well. The Audit, Risk and ESG Committee has monitored the integrity of our financial and ESG reporting and oversee risk as our operations continue to grow in complexity. The board continued to provide great leadership during the current project execution phase, including the launch of the second phase of project level financing, as announced very recently on the 17th of May. It is now my pleasure to introduce Chris Marino, the company's Managing Director and CEO, to provide detail on our advancements over the last 12 months and an overview of the coming 12 months as we execute on our plan. Chris, over to you.
Thank you, Francis. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here. Probably just want to thank as well, not just Francis, but Gavin and the rest of the board for the trust that they've had in me as the Managing Director and CEO. It's something that I've had the pleasure and the privilege of doing over the last 9 months. I've got 20 minutes to tell you what's happened in the last year. That's quite difficult, I can assure you that. We're moving at a speed that perhaps people aren't comfortable with, but what we're doing is doing things that need to be done, and we're transforming into a modern day renewable energy and lithium company. So who are we at the moment? Well, we're a company that's empowering a carbon neutral future. You guys know that. That's why you're part of our shareholder registry. We are very much driven by our values, and you can see the values there on the right-hand side of being climate champions, determined and inspiring. We live these every day. We chose the fact that we are climate champions today and in the future, and we've got grit. We're a company that is built on grit and will continue to be determined. And we hope that we continue inspiring not just ourselves internally, but people externally. This is a snapshot. There's a lot of numbers. I won't go through all of them, but basically it's what we're presenting as pretty much our phase 1 project. We have a lot of healthy figures there, whether that's based on NPV, rate of return, or even probably more importantly, the number in the bottom right-hand corner, the fact that we're looking to avoid 10 million tonnes of carbon dioxide in the coming years with our phase 1 project. There's a lot to be said about these numbers, and we could probably spend the next 20 minutes on them. But I think what you've got is a very, very compelling story that our investors are very proud and happy with. We've completed a lot. This probably is a tenth of what it should be. But if we look back a year ago, we were still doing a DFS, a definitive feasibility study. We've come a long way since then. We've issued our bridging study, which was again very compelling and pretty much reiterated what we had demonstrated through our definitive feasibility study. We've also had a number of highlights regarding ESG as we've completed our first assessment, showcasing that we really have a low impact to our environment and to our social stakeholders. We've started building things that I like to do a lot is build, commission and operate facilities, and we've started to really show through our demonstration plants how real the projects are. As we moved into the beginning of 2024, we were lucky enough to bring Felicity Gooding on board as Group CFO, and she's made an incredible impact on the company already. We'll continue though to really, press forward, and we're becoming a company that needs to transform into an execution-ready company. And that's really where I've spent a lot of my time over the last year, is making sure we grow, but we grow with control and make sure we've got the right people in place, but also the partnerships. And we'll talk a bit about that in a second, but we can't do this on our own. We do need partners, trusted partners, and they're the partners we want to grow with. Probably the biggest highlight for me recently is we have seen strong support from the European Union. The EIB, the European Investment Bank, have recently come out with a large support package up to 500 million euros. That's a real testament to where we are as a company and as a project. We will continue to get that support and hopefully with a few other partners, but that's a great signal for our shareholders. And more recently, and I was there and I was lucky to be there, and again, a very proud moment, we had the start of our lithium extraction optimization plant. This was the first time we'd extracted lithium chemicals from a domestic resource in Europe for Europe. Can't wait for you guys to get to see more of this facility. We're very proud of it. We spent a lot of money, time and effort, and I think this is what's going to move us forward with speed. And more recently, we've had some really great announcements with other partners like ABB and Draw Points. This is another pride slide. I think we've built an incredible leadership team in the executive group. We've got, really exceptional and experienced personnel from global companies, previous companies, to local German companies, and you need both. We're working in an environment that has to be very, honest to where we operate within the Upper Rhine Valley, but also having that global view and global experience. I couldn't be happier who's currently running the executive team, and it's nice to call these guys my colleagues. That's obviously coupled as well with a very experienced leadership team, board and advisors that you've heard from today. Again, we work all very well in unison to make sure that we're moving the company ahead at the right speed and with the right quality and with the right decisions. This is pretty much where we are. And I think, Francis and I have only recently come back from the Eastern States where we're obviously speaking to people about our project and where we are. And to be honest, these investment highlights don't happen, overnight. It's been years of trying to get to this point where we can really demonstrate the value of our renewable energy and zero carbon lithium business. The first point is that we really are starting to decouple from our peers and from our competitors. And it's because of these reasons that we're starting to see ourselves, Vulcan, move away from those peers. One of the main reasons is our pricing stability. You've probably seen that the lithium price is a yo-yo. It's volatile. It's a very small market and will continue to be volatile in the decade to come. We've avoided a lot of that volatility by our pricing stability, by our offtakes. And this is what the banks love and investors love. But the fact is we've really secured the value for our phase 1 project. But that's coupled with the fact that we can produce one of the lowest cost of productions for any lithium project globally. You can only do that because we've got an integrated energy and lithium project. That integration of renewable energy and lithium is quite unique in the fact that we can produce at a low cost with a very high quality. We'll talk more about that in a few seconds. We talked about our lithium extraction optimization plant. It's now in production. That's actually moved a lot of people wrong. That what we could do in Europe is actually produce a plant that can extract lithium from a domestic resource. We're not seen as a lithium company in many people's eyes. We're seen as a renewable energy company because that's what gives us that social license to operate within Germany. This product, though, is important because it will help us qualify the batteries and the cells that the automakers need. So this is fast forwarding a process that potentially we can do today rather than waiting a few years. We'll talk about financing at the end, but we haven't launched that financing as Francis said. So much effort has gone into this process. Again, it's not something that happens overnight. We actually started working with our advisors in November last year. So it's almost a 6-month process. We've had global experts crawling all over us, tearing us apart, putting us back together. And I can honestly say, as Managing Director, I'm very, very pleased about the product that's come from that review. That's now with the banks. So a lot of the lenders, advisors across markets and technical and legal have now got this in their hands. And having read the report, and I think the executives will agree, we are seeing it in a very positive light, which is a good thing. That's our phase 1 project, but we have a growth and this pipeline shouldn't be underestimated. We've got a very large resource position up and down the Upper Rhine, and we're also going to talk about where potentially Vulcan's growth is going to be as well. And last but not least, and I guess it's why the Vulcan company was born, but we're there to provide a significant disruption within the decarbonisation space. We are really supporting that supply chain to decarbonise. I think more than ever, you realise that within an EV or transport, anything that requires some form of energy storage will benefit from our type of projects. I won't spend too much time on these type of slides, but again, to assure you that when we talk about pricing stability, this can't be underestimated. We've sold all the volumes from our phase 1 project. That's critical. We've sold them and at a very good price, particularly compared to today's price. Remember, we locked in a lot of these offtakes in 2021, 2022. The price really was quite high. So we've got a real good head start here that the banks, lenders and the investors really love. We start at a very high pricing perspective. But it's not just a long-term relationship we get from these partners. They are global tier 1 automakers or cell manufacturers. That really reduces our risk in front of the eyes of a lender or an investor. They also help with relationships with government to try and receive public funding. They have many, many, many bows, and that string is really important to us and how we can actually use it to provide further value to the Vulcan Group. So obviously, Stellantis, our second largest shareholder, has also been a big part of our success over the last few years, and it maintains to be a lot of aligned interest between Stellantis and ourselves as Vulcan. I mentioned a bit about that cost of production. You'll see very soon that it all crystallises into being one of the lowest producers of lithium globally. We couldn't do it if we weren't this integrated renewable energy and lithium project. Being fully integrated provides so many advantages versus a non-integrated project. The fact is, the thing that drives our technology is heat. It's exactly what we get out of the ground. We get heat and lithium, the two things that can basically run our process. We're not having to buy expensive chemicals, expensive gas to run our process. It's already embodied in the brine. It's great to see that DLE, or absorption DLE, made up 10% of global production last year. So 10% of global production in the lithium space was through ADLE. That shows it's proven. It's more than proven. It is really what's going to take over in scale in the future. And that's why you see major energy companies like the Exxons, like the Equinors moving into this space. They have the cash balance to basically move with speed and with scale, and we're part of that mix. So we feel quite privileged here at the beginning, but we've actually got an advantage. We've been doing this for 4 or 5 years. So a lot of people are knocking on our door to understand how they can move with speed. And the last part, and I really want to make sure that we're aware of this, but the renewable energy part is a big part of our social license to operate. We're working within the country and particularly within the union, which is trying to decarbonise as fast as possible. Renewable energy has been heavily impacted by even the Russian and Ukraine war, where gas has become very expensive. So a very big solution to that energy mix will be geothermal energy. And it's great that we get to be part of that and really supporting the communities and the states that we're working in. The one thing I just want to quickly highlight, I won't spend time here, but I mean, people should be aware of why a supply chain is important in this day and age. You think about legacy methods of how we make lithium today. A lot of hard rock comes from Western Australia and either stays here or moves to China, and then we process that and then finally send lithium over to Europe. That's tens of thousands of kilometres of supply chain that you have to factor in. We've got all of 100 kilometres that we factor in because the resource is underneath our feet. We extract it, we make high quality lithium chloride, and we send it up the road 100 kilometres to where we convert the product. And our off-takers are either side of us, east and west. It's hard to buy that value. We've got that embodied within the project and it's baked in. And it's great to have that ability to say we are a local producer and a local exporter at the same time. Basically, this crystallises why we're seeing favourably. And I would argue this is one of the main reasons why we've seen recently ourselves decoupling from the rest of the lithium companies and why you've seen the share price move the way it has recently. We sit right at the bottom of that cost of production and that bottom quartile, and probably right at the bottom. It's hard to see because we're not in grey. But it does show that, you know, in the future, in the very near future, a lot of projects that are sort of looking to emulate an integrated brine project are probably going to look pretty attractive. There's always going to be a place for hard rock. It may not be the favourite. It may be something that picks up on that volatility. But I would say there's, based on the current lithium price, a lot of the companies on the yellow side, on the right-hand side, are going to struggle. We feel privileged to be in this position, and it's really part of our baked-in returns. It's very difficult to understand how our current average selling price versus our cost of production, we will always have a large margin then. And I think that's being realised by our investors, the lenders, and people wanting to move forward with Vulcan. I won't spend too much time here. I guess it's just showing a European lithium market perspective. Probably the two graphs that you can see in the bottom right-hand corner. On the left-hand side, you see more of a global macro outlook. It doesn't look too bleak. You've got a small difference between supply and demand. The issue is more on the right-hand side, which is the European outlook, which shows in the curve is what the demand is. And then you can see those bars is what the supply is. There's a big gap there. That's where we play in. That's where Vulcan plays in. So that's something that we're seeing all favourable policy. We're seeing big tailwinds from the European Union on how they're going to close that gap. And I'm quite fortunate. I get to sit on the European Battery Alliance. It's a table with all the automakers, the CEOs of those companies, where we sit with the senior members of the EU Commission talking about this gap and how we're going to solve it. And we're going to talk a bit more in a second about where those tailwinds are coming, but Vulcan's set absolutely beautifully to take advantage of that. This was a proud moment for me from last year. To be honest, this was one of the coldest days I've ever experienced, but it was all worthwhile. We got to cut the ribbon. This is where we opened up formally our lithium extraction optimization plant. It was years, a combination of years of engineering, design, construction, and it's something we should be very proud of as Vulcan and Vulcan shareholders. Because again, this was the first signal that we were going to onshore the first domestic supply chain within Europe for lithium. We've actually turned on this machine in April, And to the delight of all of us, not to the surprise, we've actually been extracting lithium at 95% efficiency. It's exactly what we promised. It's exactly what's in our financials. And it's exactly what we did literally from day one. So all that hard effort, the 2 to 3 years of piloting before that, that's gone into this design, and we've been able to achieve that. The next part of this now is to really start training our operators. It's a pre-commercial setting. We're actually operating day and night. We're building up the competency of our operations team. Of course, we're doing parameters here and there, testing how the technology works, but it's working really, really well. It's something we should all be proud of. It's a sister project up in Frankfurt. So once we create lithium chloride, which is part of the extraction process from the brine, once we've got that high quality lithium chloride, we have to convert it into the final product, which is a battery grade lithium hydroxide. We do that through an electrolysis process. So we're already starting to stockpile the lithium chloride that we're forming a little bit further south. And we're sending it up to our sister project, the CLEO as we call it. It's the electrolysis optimization plant, which will hopefully be ready by about July. We look to start production end of July, beginning of this machine. This will be an incredible moment, not just for Vulcan, but for Germany, but for Europe. It's going to demonstrate Europe's first fully integrated lithium battery chemical. So we will have a lot of politicians with our opening. It's a big moment for us. It's not producing small quantities, it's producing commercial type quantities at a very small level that we will use, and it's in the title, to help as part of that qualification process. This is a really important point, that we could spend years once our commercial production is operating to basically qualify our product, but then we won't be battery grade. Or we can start up this plant and start producing the exact same chemical that we'll send to our off-takers, and we can qualify that product, which is exactly what we're doing. Francis and I only recently came back from Europe, and we were talking to the automakers and the cathode makers, and that's exactly the plan, to sort of get ahead 2 years and use this to qualify our product. But Volsorb is an important part, and I could probably speak for a couple of hours on Volsorb, which is the internal Vulcan technology we've developed over the last few years. This is becoming a big part of our future. It obviously protects and secures our supply chain for phase one. We're producing the heart and the soul of the absorption process within Vulcan. This is what differentiates us from other companies, because we've got the technology in-house, and we're not at the mercy of another company in China, Russia, or elsewhere. So we've been able to prepare, produce, and now we're putting this in commercial quantities. And now the next part of our Volsorb journey could be anywhere. And we're getting a lot of attention from lots of other countries and continents now on how potentially we can apply our technology to their brines. We'll talk more about that hopefully in the coming months, and hopefully before the next year's AGM, we might be able to provide even more news there. But this is a more watch this space type of thing. But we're really happy with the fact that Volsorb was designed for us, but now might be used by others. Probably something close to my heart is how we're getting ready for execution. I talked about us having an incredible internal experienced leadership team for the execution part, and we do. We've got some of the literally global leaders and our German leaders who've been there and done that and built major capital projects are all part of our executive team now. So I couldn't be happier. We've got most senior people, some big oil and gas companies, chemical firms, and big engineering firms. But it's not all about Vulcan. We need to partner. There's thousands and thousands of people that will be involved in the construction of this project. And you can see below, we're starting to announce some of those key partners. They're globally significant partnerships with ABB. It will be supporting us on electrical instrumentation and control. And then we've got a company called Nessier Vancouver and Jill Prosser, an Australian company, who are a world leader in water processing, but also particularly in lithium in terms of crystallizers and evaporators. So we've now announced those partnerships. There's probably one partner that we haven't announced, and we'll hopefully announce soon, and it's the main EPCM partner. But we're looking forward to announcing that soon, so I think you'll be pretty happy with what we're about to announce. It would be remiss of me not to talk about sustainability. Talking about Vulcan, I think you probably know a lot about what we've done in the past and where we're going in the future, but we should really remember ourselves why we're here. And we're looking at probably that 10 million carbon dioxide tonnes to be avoided in our phase one alone. I mean, if you start multiplying that with our resource, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, you realise the type of impact that a company like Vulcan is having globally. We'll continue to disclose and continue to be part of the ESG framework, but I really feel like at the moment we're showing the way and being leaders in this space. Again, the pipeline is important. Hang in there with us. We've got a long way to go. This is phase one of many, many phases, and we're only talking about the upper Rhine in Germany. We're obviously looking at other opportunities in France at the moment, which are obviously progressing quite well. But when I talk to investors, and particularly when I talk to other type of investors, this is a big part of why they want to be part of the journey. We don't stop at phase one. We're looking to grow, and we've got the resource position to do so. And I think this is what makes us attractive, to be honest, to a lot of large investors. And finally, I think it's been so much effort to get to last week when we released the financing package. But again, we're super proud. So we've now commenced the final stage of the debt and the equity process. We've got well-leading banks who basically are supporting us as part of the structuring banks. They're on your screen. When we looked at basically launching the finance, we were waiting for a couple of key signals that we thought were important as a company before we started that. One of them was the involvement of the EIB. It's the world's largest bank, the European Investment Bank. They're a little bit slow, but they're extremely important. And when they do support you, they support you all the way. You know, they come out with a potential 500 million support package for our company. That's quite incredible when you look at where they are as a very conservative bank, that they're investing like that in the downstream, like battery plants and cathodes, but rarely in the upstream. We're really the largest and probably the first investment they've done this far upstream. So something we're extremely proud of. And I think it's a real positive signal to a number of the investors. But it's not just the EIB who are getting involved. On the bottom right-hand corner here, you see other countries with their government banks, their EDCs of the world, from Canada, BPI France, EFA. So the Australian Export Credit Agency has come out with 200 million AUD support for our project. So we've got an incredible support at the moment from government-related banks. We've got a lot of support from actual commercial banks. So that will crystallise over the next 4 to 5 months as we go through the debt process. We've also had really good success so far in public funding. So we're currently in the mix for a number of public funding schemes. I can't announce them, but I mentioned we're waiting for some positive signals. For one of them, we've received a very positive signal. This is quite game-changing for Vulcan because we're talking about large sums of money that are grant money. It's free money, which doesn't impact our equity. We'll be monitoring this. We should find out more about this by the end of Q3, beginning of Q4. But it's significant on how it will support our phase one project. So, and we feel like we are in a position that we can capitalise on this because a lot of them use the criteria of carbon avoidance as the main criteria. So look, we'll continue pushing this hard. We feel like we're on the right track, and hopefully we can provide some good news towards the end. This is another important part of where we are, and I mentioned previously about the tailwinds within Europe. They are really catching up, and they're going to be a force now where things like the European Critical Materials Act is providing a platform to really support companies like Vulcan to get through the red tape. So this is an EU initiative almost combating things like the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act in the US, where they're going to give and provide a status of a strategic project. And once you've been named a strategic project, you get things that you're on a freeway or on a highway, whether it's permitting, access to funding. So, we've been working very closely with this group for a long time, so we feel very confident. This is now opened up, so the submissions are now taking place. It will close in August, and we'll hopefully find out whether we're successful by the end of Q3, beginning of Q4. So if you look at also what they're sort of looking for, they're looking to pretty much have 10% of European lithium production extracted from Europe. That's not that easy when you're talking about some of the social aspects of some of the mining projects. We're not a mining project, we're a renewable energy project. So we feel like we're one of those projects that will have a lot of support from the EU as well. And finally, before I hand back to Francis, I think the next 6 months, if the last 6 months were busy, I expect the next 6 months will be even busier. We've got a lot of big milestones to hit, and to be honest, we're quite confident we are going to hit these. The first milestone will be hopefully around August, where we produce that first ton of lithium hydroxide monohydrate from our optimization point, really demonstrating that full life cycle from extraction through to conversion. We'll have and hopefully find out the final decision on our public funding schemes, which will have a big boost to our phase one project. Finalisation of our equity package, who are we going to choose to partner with in equity, which is a big decision, something I take very seriously. Pretty much when we've secured those two things, we'll go off and start signing the major contracts to start getting these projects underway. We will finalise the debt package towards the end of the year, early next, and I hope I get to send you a photo with me with a shovel in my hand somewhere, starting construction. That's really my dream if I had to get to pick something. So that's where we are. Thank you for listening to me. Yeah, and I'll be here for questions as well.
Thanks very much, Chris. Okay, so we'll proceed with the formal business of the meeting. The minutes of the annual general meeting of the company held in May 2023 have been signed, and a copy can be made available for inspection from the company secretary. Questions from shareholders. Shareholders will be given the opportunity to ask questions of the board as they relate to a particular agenda item and resolution. After we've done this at the end, we'll also provide an opportunity to do a Q&A, particularly with Chris on the MD presentation as well. When you ask a question, please advise your name and whether you are speaking as a shareholder, proxy, or corporate representative so that the board can address you. For those joining via Zoom, I ask that you please submit any questions or comments via the Q&A function, which can be found at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Please start your question by typing your shareholding SRN or HIN. This will allow the moderator to identify you as a shareholder. If you would like to ask your question verbally, type your SRN or HIN and then type "I'd like to speak." Once you finish typing, please hit enter on your keyboard to send. When you submit a question or comment, please start by typing which resolution it relates to so that it can be addressed at the appropriate time. For each resolution, we will take questions from the floor and then turn to questions online. Daniel Tidd, Vulcan's company secretary and legal counsel, will advise me of the questions. Where there is a common issue, we will also group questions thematically. If there are any journalists joining us today, welcome. As I'm sure you can understand, we'll prioritise questions from our shareholders. Should you wish to ask a question and you're unheard, myself, Chris, Felicity, and the team will happily speak with you after the meeting. If you're joining us online, please get in touch with Daniel directly, and he will organise an opportunity for you to speak with Chris or myself. We now move to the formal business as set out in the notice of meeting. The notice of annual general meeting is to be taken as read. The voting on all resolutions will be conducted by poll. For the purposes of the poll, I appoint Flynn Mitchell of Ord Site, the company's share registry, who has examined and prepared summaries of the proxy forms received, to act as returning officer and to conduct the poll. Shareholders in attendance via Zoom that have already submitted a vote by proxy should note that your votes will already be counted towards the poll. You do not need to lodge another vote unless you wish to change your proxy instruction. Shareholders in attendance via Zoom that have not submitted a vote by proxy and wish to vote on the resolutions being put to the meeting today can do so by following the instructions provided in the notice of meeting. There are instructions on your screen for how to log into the online voting portal. Please note that the online voting portal is now open and will remain open until the poll is declared closed. Your votes must have been submitted prior to the poll being closed for them to count. Those shareholders in attendance that are entitled to vote on the poll are all shareholders, representatives, and attorneys of shareholders and proxy holders who hold yellow voting cards. If you are attending in more than one of those capacities, you will be issued with as many voting cards as you have separate capacities. If anyone believes they are entitled to vote on this poll in any capacity and do not have a yellow voting card in respect thereof, please raise your hand now and a member of our share registry team will assist you. At the appropriate time, I will ask that you mark your vote for the resolution on the yellow voting card. If you are a shareholder and wish to cast all of your votes for a resolution, please place a mark in either the for, against, or abstain box next to that resolution. If you wish to split your votes, please write the number or the portion of votes you wish to cast in the corresponding for, against, or abstain boxes. Please note that the sum of the split votes must not exceed your total holding. If you are a proxy holder, a summary of the votes to which you are entitled has been attached to the voting card. If the summary of votes includes the discretionary votes, these are yours to cast at your discretion. If you wish to cast the discretionary votes, please place a mark in the corresponding for, against, or abstain boxes. If a summary of votes does not have any discretionary votes, you do not need to mark your voting card and will simply need to hand it to the returning officer at the end of the resolutions. After all resolutions have been read and voted on, please place the form in one of the ballot boxes that will be circulating the room. Proxies have been inspected and all those validly lodged have been accepted. Proxies have been received representing up to approximately 35.6 million shares, or 21% of the issued capital of the company. All undirected proxies or open votes that have nominated the chair of the meeting as their proxy will be cast in favour of each resolution in the notice of annual general meeting. We will now proceed to the resolutions set out in the notice of annual general meeting. To streamline the meeting, details of the resolutions, the proxy votes, and voting restrictions for each resolution will be on the screen. I do not intend to read them out to you, as they will be there for you to view. There are 5 resolutions to be considered by the meeting. The first item of business is to receive and consider the financial statements and reports for the year ended 31 December 2023. This is a discussion item only and does not require a resolution. I formally table the financial statements of the company and its controlled entities for the year ended 31 December 2023, and the related directors' reports, directors' declarations, and auditors' reports as set out in the company's annual report for the period 1 January to 31 December 2023. Brian Ting, the audit partner from the company's external auditor, RSM, is available to answer any questions to the auditors. Are there any questions from our shareholders regarding this item of business? There being no more speakers, I will move to the resolutions. We'll now move on to resolution 1. Adoption of the remuneration reports. Details for this resolution and the proxy votes are on the screen. When determining the remuneration outcomes, the board has carefully considered the advancements made over the year, which Chris has outlined, in combination with the external factors that may have had an impact on the company. The board believes the outcomes, as outlined in the remuneration reports, are reasonable and provide appropriate alignments between executive performance, shareholder return, and recognition of executive retention criticality over the next business phase. The resolution is open to discussion. Does anybody wish to ask a question? I'll start with the floor. Any questions online? See not. There being no further questions, I now put the resolution to the meeting. Please use your ballot paper to vote on the resolution. Those attending virtually can vote via the online portal, however, are reminded not to click on next until they have selected their vote for all resolutions. Have all persons who intend to vote now voted? Thank you. The next item of business is re-election of myself, so I'll pass over to Chris for this one.
I haven't got my glasses, but yes, resolution 2, re-election of Director Dr. Francis Vidin. Dr. Francis is a battery raw materials industry executive with a career spanning 4 continents and multiple commodities. Dr. Vidin founded Vulcan Group, Vulcan Group's integrated renewable energy zero carbon lithium project in Germany. Dr. Vidin was previously executive director of ASX-listed Exor Resources. During this time, he discovered and defined 2 new JORC lithium resources on 2 continents in under a year. This included Linus Fund, which was bought by Pilgrim Minerals to become part of its large Livingura lithium project, now in production. Francis has a PhD and a Bachelor of Honours in Geology, Mineral Exploration, and an MBA in Renewable Energy. He is a Fellow of the Geological Society, London, and a member of the Australasian Institute of Mining and Metallurgy. I think it goes without saying that Francis made an invaluable contribution to Vulcan since his appointment as Executive Chair in June 2023, and we welcome his continued support of Vulcan. Details for his resolution and the proxy votes are on the screen. Resolution is open to discussion. Does anybody wish to ask a question on the floor? Any questions online? There being no further questions, I now put the resolution to the meeting. Please use your ballot paper to vote on the resolution. Those attending virtually can vote via the online portal. However, a reminder not to click on the next until they have selected their vote for all resolutions. Have all persons who intended to vote now voted? I will pass it back to you, Francis.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks all for your support. So next item of business is resolution 3, re-election of Director Josephine Bush. Josephine is a qualified solicitor and chartered tax advisor, as well as holding the CFA ESG investing qualification and a sustainable finance certification. She has an MA in law from Cambridge University. Josephine was a senior partner at EY for 14 years, specialising in the sustainable and renewable energy sector. She was a member of the EY Power and Utilities Board and UK and I Governance Board. Josephine is also a non-executive director on the Next Energy Solar Fund PLC and Foresight Sustainable Forestry Company PLC, both listed on the London Stock Exchange. In addition, she is a strategic advisor to select businesses on their sustainability strategy. Josephine has made an invaluable contribution to Vulcan and its ESG focus since her appointment in April 2021, and we welcome her continued support of Vulcan. Details for this resolution and the proxy votes are on the screen. The resolution is open to discussion. Does anybody wish to ask a question? Start with the floor. Any online? There being no further questions, I now put the resolution to the meeting. Please use your ballot paper to vote on the resolution. Those attending virtually can vote via the online portal. However, are reminded not to click on next until they've selected their vote for all resolutions. Have all persons who intend to vote now voted? Take that as a yes, thank you. The next item of business is resolution for re-election of Director Ms. Rania Al-Qadamani. Ms. Al-Qadamani holds a Master of International Relations and International Communications and a Bachelor of Media from Macquarie University. Ms. Al-Qadamani is currently founder and CEO of Impact Group International, a strategic communications consultancy focused on advice to impact investors, philanthropists, and innovative social impact programs. Ms. Al-Qadamani works extensively in the impact investment space in Australia and internationally, and has a strong network of clients and investors in the clean energy and renewables sector. Ms. Vulcan is also a non-executive director of the Australian Associated Press, Australia's only independent newswire, director of the Impact Investment Summit Asia Pacific, and an advisory board member at Murdoch University. Ms. Vulcan was former strategic communications and external affairs director of Andrew Forrest Minderoo Foundation and now Tatarang, press secretary to former Australian Prime Minister Kevin Rudd during his time as Australian Foreign Minister, and a spokesperson for the Australian Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. Since April 2020, Rania has made an invaluable contribution to Vulcan. We welcome her continued support. Details for this resolution and the proxy votes are on the screen. The resolution is open to discussion. Does anybody wish to ask a question from the floor? Online? There being no further questions, I now put the resolution to the meeting. Please use your ballot paper to vote on the resolution. Those attending virtually can vote via the online portal. Have all persons who intend to vote now voted? Thank you. The final item of business is Resolution 5, Approval of the Incentive Awards Plan. The company considers that it is desirable to renew its employee incentive scheme, under which the company can issue equity securities in the form of performance rights, as well as shares and options without utilising its placement capacity. The ASX existing rules require that such renewal is sought every 3 years. The objective of the plan is to attract, motivate and retain key officers, employees and consultants of the company by providing them with the opportunity to acquire equity securities that allow them to participate in the future growth of the company. The company does not intend to issue the full 8.6 million securities, for which approval is being sought, and notes that when the plan was last approved by shareholders on 29 November 2021, the company received approval to issue approximately 6 million equity securities, of which only 800,000 have been issued. In addition, the company seeks shareholder approval to give certain retirement and termination benefits under the plan, again, to provide the company with flexibility should it need to grow its team rapidly and incentivize key personnel, noting that the company is poised to enter construction and production over the coming period, usually associated with a rapid growth in team size. The company's current policy is to only use this should someone leave the company in limited circumstances, such as death or being medically unfit to continue working. Details for this resolution and the proxy votes are on the screen. The resolution is open to discussion. Does anybody wish to ask a question from the floor? Online? There being no further questions, I now put the resolution to the meeting. Please use your ballot paper to vote on the resolution. Those attending virtually can vote via the online portal. Have all persons who intend to vote now voted? Thank you. It appears the voting process has been completed. I request that the Automic representative collect all ballot papers. Please ensure that your ballot paper is collected for your votes to be counted. I therefore declare the poll closed. Results of this poll will be lodged with the ASX after the meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now completed the matters contained in the notice of annual general meeting. Just before we close, I'd like to give the opportunity to ask any questions, particularly of Chris, as he's over here from Europe, and online as well. So I'll put it open to the floor first. any questions for myself, the board, or for Chris Marino? Yes.
Yes, Alan Wolford's my name, I'm a shareholder. I was just wondering, do I really need that? I was just wondering, with all the action for the companies in Europe, whether any possibility that the company will be, the headquarters will be moved from Perth to Europe, which would be very sad in my opinion, but that's something that would be a concern.
Thanks for the question. It's a good question, and we have had that question before. No is the simple answer. We're not intending to move the headquarters. Clearly, we have a very strong European flavour and DNA, particularly German, also French, in our team, in our projects. But I think the longer-term goal for Vulcan is to look beyond the Upper Rhine Valley in Central Europe and actually to look at applying the technology team that we built up in the company and apply it to elsewhere in the world. And we're looking at Australia as well. There are brines in Australia that have lithium in them. We are going to be testing some of those brines. We have companies approaching us testing those brines, and also from elsewhere like North America. So I think Australia, given its very strong lithium focus, if you like, resources focus, is the natural home for us. We're also conscious that a lot of our support has come from Australia, from the ASX, from resources-focused investors in APAC. So no plans to move that. And we certainly see the growth in beyond phase one as being a mixture of European and international. Thank you. Anything to add to that, Chris? Nothing to add. Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
Hello, pleased to meet you both. Russell Weaver's shareholder. I think this relates to Chris. Earlier on in your presentation, you showed that there was $200 million from the Australian government. Did I get that correctly?
It's you did see it right, Russell, so well done. It's a support, so it's up to 200 million from Export Finance Australia, which is an export credit agency. I mean, the way it works is if we are able to provide services from Australia that can support our project, product or services, the EFA government will provide us a form of ECA coverage, which is really important because it helps to underwrite the total debt package. So you've got a government-backed bank who will then underwrite any potential issues, risks to the commercial banks, and they've committed up to 200 million Australian dollars, circa 120, 130 million euros.
So there is a very good chance that they're going to put $200 million in.
From a support perspective, yes. So they're not doing direct lending, but they provide coverage in case we need it. So there might be a scenario where we see an issue and we need support from a government bank, and they can underwrite any issues that we may have as a project, and therefore they'll support the commercial banks. Yeah. And I think from us, we're actually in strong communication with the EFA. I think Francis has met them a few times. They're big supporters. They're actually coming over to Europe soon and be part of the process. So we really relish the support from an Australian sort of government perspective. So yeah, we're really happy with that support.
Okay, thanks. Just one other quick question referring to public funding, which I saw on one of the slides there. Is that, would that be in the form of asking shareholders to contribute to a share purchase plan, something like that?
No, not in this case. These public support schemes are genuine grants. So they are grants that are issued to ourselves to effectively free money because they want to support the project or the company execute on that project. So it's not an equity investment, it's literally a grant. What it does do though, it actually reduces our requirement to raise so much. So effectively we don't need to like dilute, we can use that money to execute the project without any commitment from whether it's the German government or the EU. So it's really important. And this is the type of stimulus you've seen in the US, for example, with the IRA. And now the EU are finally catching up, the member states are finally catching up, realizing that it's an unfair playing field out there in China and the US, and the EU is now catching up. So this will be grant money, it's effectively free, and it will remove any potential equity we're going to raise.
I like having put free money.
I like it as well. So let's see if we end up getting it, but there's some confidence, at least with one of the schemes so far.
Are there any other questions? No? Great. Well, thanks very much. I don't see any open questions online either using the Q&A function. So thanks to everyone who attends. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now completed the matters contained in the notice of annual general meeting, and I declare the meeting closed. I thank you all for your attendance, both in person and online. Thanks very much for your time. Cheers.